Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Metro North Long Island Committee's meeting. Today is May 22nd. As we usually alternate leads, this meeting today will be led by Metro North. And if we could start the public comments period, please.
Good morning. We have 8 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. The first speaker will be Murray Bowden, followed by Jason Anthony.
Morning, Dale. I expect you all attention because what I have to say I think is important. And if you need to do your email, you want to do it out of the room because it disturbs me. Those people who don't pay attention to the rules and that they are enforced are the ones responsible for that railroad accident out in the Midwest where the trains derailed because they had a hot box and nobody did anything about it. So most of the problems that we're facing today are enforcement problems. The rules are there, safety rules, and they haven't been enforced. Can I enforce them? No. I now got myself an electric wheelchair because my wife wanted to go to botanical gardens and I can't walk more than 5 or 10 yards, or I can stand here, but I can't stand here for long. So I got an electric wheelchair so I can go to the botanical gardens with my wife. It's the unenforcement of rules that is the problem. You go here and you go up to Franklin Drive and you go over the bridge there. There's gates and traffic lights. Why aren't there gates and traffic lights at railroad crossings? Well, because railroad crossings are different than the other gates. What's different about them? Traffic has to stop. You have distracted drivers, you have aggressive drivers, you have idiot drivers. I don't know which is worse. Why should you have flashing red lights at the railroad crossings instead of traffic lights? Oh, because nobody ever made a stop.
Mr. Bowden, please conclude your remarks.
What meeting are we in?
Mr. Bowden, if you'd like another 2 minutes, please just request it.
I did when I started.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Continue.
Not here. I don't have to do it here. This is what goes on. People don't pay attention. They just go on and on doing what they always did. And you have railroad accidents and you have this hot boxes and nobody follows the rules. And this is an example of what it is. Pay attention. I've been doing this for years and I've been speaking twice this other day. And here you have a perfect example of somebody who should have known better. I certainly can't do it. I was in Valhalla the other day having ice cream. The train horn blew 4 times. Why do you blow the train horn 4 times? You go up in Connecticut, train goes through at 60 miles an hour and it goes poop. People need consistency of information. Why do you have 2? Because nobody ever took the time to change it. This is called global warming, people, and change is here. And if you can't get it, then get out of here and let some young kid come in here who knows how to do it. My time's up. I'm going to die soon, not because I may just pass away, because some aggressive driver is going to go over the double line and hit me head on. I have do not resuscitate in my pocket, but I also am figuring out how to put it on my watch and 911 because if I'm out of state and I get hit, I don't want to live. I've had it. It's up to my grandchildren's generation and the future what you're planning here. So stop these people who have not enforced the law, Kathy. They go through the station, go toot at 60 miles an hour. Who's supposed to protect? The horn is a safety thing, and if it doesn't work, you got it at the station, you got public address, use that. I want to thank all of the people who taught me this. I'm not so smart. Each piece of this came from somebody else and taught me how to stand here and say it.
Thank you, Mr. Bowden. Our next speaker is Jason Anthony.
Good morning. I want 2 minutes for each meeting. Let's start with Metro North. I saw in the capital construction materials that we're having an update regarding the M9s. Why not the M9As? When they're gonna come? Because we need to retire the Metropolitans from service because they're like literally my age or even older. And one thing for certain, we need to have audio announcements in all stations, just like some rail has it, that alerts passengers with audio announcements that the train will be arriving. And also have special lighting to alert those people that are deaf of hearing that they could watch that particular light blink. Regarding accessibility, we need more elevators and ramps at all stations to comply with the ADA Act. And regarding safety, Chief, we need more officers in key stations like Grand Central, Fordham, and others. And we should motivate passengers to use our system, especially that the summer is around the corner. And we could offer discounts to Ride Playland and Rye and things like that. So let's go to Long Island Railroad. Regarding the LIRR, Kathy, we want service to Long Beach during the summertime to and from Atlanta Terminal, Brooklyn, because since that Long Beach is a summer destination, it is not fair for Brooklynites like myself to have to take the subway to either Grand Central or Penn and then take a train to Long Beach. So why not have a one-seat ride for those who live near Atlanta Terminal, Brooklyn, like myself? And regarding the M9s, it is good that we have an update, but we're not certain when the Metropolitans, in other words, better known as the M3s, are going to retire from service. And regarding accessibility, Cassie, we need more elevators and ramps, especially East New York, that is in a state of disrepair. And we could get CND involved to see if we could put an elevator from the LIRR station to all the way to the L train platform. Because since that both stations are right there, one above the other, we could put an elevator pretty easy. And regarding the 4th of July weekend, Kathy, we need more trains to and from Hunters Point Avenue and Grand Central, because you know that 4th of July is a day that New Yorkers come to either Queens or Manhattan, and we don't want the 7 train to be overcrowded like sardines in a can. So I'll yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alita Dupree, followed by Charlton D'Souza.
Thank you. Good morning to the chair, Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her. and talk about railroad today. Very, very important. First of all, Omni work needs to continue and to see what it will look like. The only glimpse I have of it is last month I mentioned to you about an open payment pilot on the Capitol Corridor in California. And how do we build a more renewable railroad? Because we still have a number of sections that are not electrified. And hydrogen is a possibility, as I've said before. But it seems to me the easiest way going forward is to put down more third rail and to ensure that when third rail or overhead wire is available, that it be used. And I think back to growing up about times when I used the railroad and times when I didn't, but wondering if we could have used it more. I still think about Long Island, and I would like to see more ways that we could be shown how to use the railroad to get around on Long Island. Still don't know when I'm going to rent a car. And lastly, Grand Central is essential, and that includes Grand Central Madison as well. And I hope to see it soon, as I am reminded of Jerry Rafferty and right down the line. One of the reasons why I'm homesick for New York is because I can never have enough Grand Central Terminal, and I thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charlton D'Souza, followed by Jack Nierenberg.
I had a bit of an issue with Zoom, guys. I don't know what's going on with the registration, but happy to be, I'm going to speak first on the Long Island Railroad situation. So with the Long Island Railroad, conductors are complaining to me on the trains because they're getting these combo tickets and it says Grand Central, and some conductors have actually taken the ticket and punched all the holes in them like they normally do. And when the customer gets on Metro North and shows the ticket to the conductor, they don't take it. And sometimes the conductor on the railroad, the Long Island Railroad, has to actually ask the conductor back for the ticket. The fact that there was not training on it, but again, you can't blame the conductors because the conductors see Grand Central as a final destination on the ticket. So what happens? They take the ticket. That's by human nature. And so that is a problem. We've gotten a lot of complaints about it. And that there needs to be more training, either that, or you guys need to issue an email to all the conductors, letting them know what the procedure is and how to process a combo ticket, because there's a lot of confusion about it. And it still does not give you the option on the TVM machine to put in New Haven or like Poughkeepsie, or it only gives you the option to put in Grand Central, and that's what's printed on the combo ticket. So let's say you start from Queens Village to Grand Central, that's what comes up, and it's creating just a confusion, a lot of mess, and it's putting people in a bad predicament. So y'all really need to fix that, and I have complained about this actually at the last few meetings, but I don't know what's going on, why nobody responded, but it is becoming a problem. So I'm going to switch to my Metro North time now, if I can. So with Metro North, there's a lot of issues happening. We're getting complaints, and I think there needs to be a better way to handle the issues on the New Haven line, because every time you'll open up that bridge to let the boats through, the trains are getting stuck there. There's been signal issues of late on the New Haven line. Amtrak trains have been held up on the Northeast Corridor. So you'll have to improve communication all about, especially on Sundays, because you have thousands of people coming from Boston, people are coming from New London. So these things have to be worked out. And I've noticed with the Shoreline East schedules out of New London, the last train I think that leaves around maybe 9, 10 o'clock at night out of New London. There's no connection to a New Haven train. And that is something that y'all need to work out with Shoreline East so that there's a connection, because a lot of people are, wanting to use Shoreline East service more, and they want to connect to the Metro North service to get to New York. So that has to be better worked out. And I also understand that, the Connecticut wants to cut some of the trains on the New Haven line, which I have a big issue with. And I heard they want to adjust some midday trains, and you can't have service cuts in Connecticut. Connecticut's part of the MTA region. There needs to be more service. And if anything, they need express trains from Grand Central making express stops. That's how you get people to use Metro North. And otherwise, people are going to get in their cars, they're going to be driving, and it doesn't help the region at all. And I'm very concerned about what Connecticut's governor is doing in terms of just all the rail service in Connecticut. So we all have to speak up at the MTA about this, and something has to be done. Otherwise, guys, thank you for letting me speak. And, I'll see you later on today. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jack Nierenberg, followed by Andy Pollack.
Good morning. I'm Jack Nierenberg, Vice President of Passengers United. And after pleading with you all to shift the last train of the day to Greenport back from 5:04 to 5:39, bravo, you did it. Thank you. Now, with that being said, it would have been nice if the 2:31 train from Penn to Greenport, or the train that connects to that 2:31 Penn train, would have been shifted back to whatever the equivalent to the 3:55 train used to be, because based on my recollection, that was probably the most crowded Ronkonkoma train of the day. So it would have been great if that train was shifted back so that it could actually meet the demand of Ronkonkoma, and especially North Fork riders, including myself, who rely on that branch to get out and would otherwise be missing that train, ultimately be forced to take the last train, the 5:39. And 2 cars, that train's going to be packed. And there have already been situations before where that train only had 1 car, and people have been forced to take shuttle buses because they literally couldn't fit on that train. So if that can be addressed, especially, I'm not sure if it's possible before Memorial Day, or certainly as soon as possible, so that we can actually make sure that everyone has a rail option to the North Fork for the summer season. But at the same time, I'm glad to see the Cannonball back. But at the same time, it would be great to see more Montauk trains. I'm not talking about Patchogue or Spinac. I'm talking about Montauk stopping at Mineola and Hicksville and actually using the central branch. We have a 3rd track. So much has been invested in this 3rd track. It would be great to actually see the railroad using it. I'm going to speak at the 2nd committee. All right. So please, we see all of these investments. We see Grand Central as well. Again, I'm not going to speak about Brooklyn because I've said a lot about that already. But when it comes to Grand Central specifically, yes, if we really want to get more people taking the railroad, first of all, why not just lower the fares across the board? That'll incentivize people to get on the railroad, and it'll actually result in more profits as a result. And also easier ticketing options. My colleague mentioned earlier the confusion with the combo ticket. So I think there's got to be a better way to address the combo ticket issue, making it clearer what exactly the destination is. Maybe it should say, rather than just Grand Central, Long Island Railroad territory or Metro North territory, something like that, just to signal to the conductors checking the tickets that they're going farther than Grand Central. They're actually going on the other railroad. And while we're at it, the ticket vending machines in the Metro North concourse and the Long Island Railroad concourse, those should be offering tickets for both railroads. They're at Grand Central. If people are in Grand Central and they're taking a train from Grand Central, they should be able to get a ticket from anywhere in the station. So, lastly, I'm going to mention the announcement of the new turnstiles for New York City Transit, and hopefully those have the opportunity to actually implement those for the railroad, which would ultimately make it much easier. Because I've seen the system in the Netherlands. They have, I know I've mentioned that a lot, they have a unified fare system where you can just go in the gate, tap in, tap out your station, and should the MTA actually choose to exercise that, that would be a game changer for the region. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Andy Pollack, followed by Kara Girl. Our next speaker is Kara Girl.
Good morning. I'm Kara Girl, Planning and Advocacy Manager at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. Today marks the next round of Long Island Railroad service changes with the new summer schedules. Riders have had a rocky year so far, with some ups, a beautiful new station with direct access to the east side, and some downs, issues still being worked out with this major service overhaul. To help inform the next round of adjustments, LIRR launched a survey last month and gathered feedback from hundreds of riders. The results point to some clear improvements that can be made to improve the rider experience. Our survey found that since the new schedules began, travel time increased by an average of 11 minutes. Many more riders reported needing to change trains now when they previously didn't. Almost 60% of respondents reported now having to transfer, up from 34% before the changes. This loss of direct service, coupled with the end of timed and cross-platform connections, is a core issue for many riders. Reinstating timed connections is key to ensuring riders have a smoother trip. Riders also still report crowding on peak trains to and from Penn, which is likely to continue as ridership hits new records. We hope these findings will be helpful for future adjustments. Better service is the way to show riders that transit is their best and fastest option, and we also hope you'll be able to solve many of the recurring service issues that have happened near Jamaica lately. To that end, it's great that all trains in both Metro North and Long Island Railroad territory are operating with full PTC functionality, including at Grand Central Madison. This is another step towards the 21st century transit system that riders deserve, and an example of the improvements that come with proper investment. Not to mention, a model for both railroads to use similar technologies and best practices. We were glad to see new Long Island Railroad information screens on the upper level of Grand Central near Metro North, and with the opening of new escalators between the railroads to help with connectivity, and the Great Train Time app, we're getting closer to a more unified transit system with more seamless travel. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Andy Quito.
Hey, good morning, guys. My name is Andy Quito. I want to talk about a few different things that are affecting, especially the Long Island Railroad. First, let's talk about Penn Station in the late night service, especially after events at Madison Square Garden. I just read a Newsday article this morning, and a lot of people are getting very frustrated that this lack, ever since Grand Central Madison opened, there's been lack of late night service, especially after events and MSG. Some people have to either scramble or have to wait a longer time at Penn Station, or they're gonna have to get on a train and transfer at Jamaica. And we don't really know what Jamaica's like late nights. It's just not a good area to wait for a train. So one solution that I can do is add extra service after events and at Penn Station. Anyway, Penn Station got so many tracks, so there's no excuse. And speaking of time connection, it needs to be brought back, especially on the weekends, where there's like less trains running on the railroad. So I think time connection should be brought back on the weekend. It'll make everybody commute much more smoother. And lastly, I want to talk about the combo tickets. There's been some issues with it, and I've been hearing from people that I know. So my solution is if you want to go, let's say from Holly Station, my home station, to let's say University Heights, it should be saying the ticket should be saying Hollis, LIRR, and University Heights Metro North. Can I get like one more extra minute, please? Because I want to talk more about this. So yeah, that's
fine.
one of the solutions to so the conductors won't have any issues on both LIRR or Metro North. when they come in to check tickets and when they stamp on it. And lastly, Grand Central Madison, I'm very happy that you guys opened another connection to from the main Grand Central Terminal down to the LIRR concourse, and I'm really looking forward to looking forward to see it for myself in person one day. And one solution that I can say to make Grand Central Madison more perfect is to add some benches, like especially around the waiting area where with track 201, 303, like add some benches so people can sit while they're waiting for trains. Obviously, it needs to be enforced by the MTA police, so we won't have like homeless people sleeping. So have that so it can improve better experience for the customers traveling to and from Grand Central Madison. And I think that's all I gotta say. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope this can improve the railroad for both LA Devon and Metro North. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment session.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you to this morning's speakers. I would like to acknowledge my co-chair, Sammy Chu, who has joined us virtually. Good morning, Sammy. The meeting minutes for the April 24th have been distributed. Does anybody have any corrections or omissions? If not, I move to approve the minutes. Can I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Glucksman. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Minutes are approved. Kathy, are there any changes to the work plan for either railroad?
There are no changes to either work plan.
Very well, thank you. We will now hear the President's report for both railroads. Kathy?
Thank you, Chair. When someone calls you a broken record, it's usually not a good thing, but we kind of like them. In fact, a lot of records have been falling by the wayside lately on both sides of Long Island Sound. On Tuesday, May 9th, both Metro North and the Long Island Railroad shattered their respective one-day post-pandemic ridership records, with Metro North breaking through the 200,000 ceiling for the first time since March 6, 2020, with a little more than 205,000 riders. That same day, Long Island surpassed its previous record by almost 5,000, only to break it again the following day, May 10th, with a new record total of almost 222,000 customers. That week, both agencies had their best Mondays, and Metro North also set COVID-era ridership records in average weekday, average Tuesday through Thursday, and an average weekend. It also marked the first time that the Long Island Railroad broke the 200,000 customer mark on 4 days in a given week post-COVID. As an encore, those one-day records were once again shattered by both railroads the following week and on the same day. May 16th post-COVID record total for Metro North came in at 207,484 and Long Island at 227,489. As of last Thursday, the Long Island had surpassed the 200,000 daily customer mark 34 times since the introduction of service to Grand Central Madison. And then hot off the presses this morning, I have information about last week. Friday's ridership on Long Island was 208,310, which was the best Friday since the pandemic. Yesterday was the best Sunday since the pandemic. And last week was the first time Long Island reached 200,000 riders or more every single day, Monday through Friday, since the pandemic began. Of course, ridership still isn't at pre-COVID levels, but this is all fantastic to see, and it's the closest that we've come. We are now regularly in the 70s, as in 70+% of our daily benchmarks from 2019. Charlton D'Souza mentioned it was also in the Connecticut press yesterday. We are watching very closely events in Hartford, where the Connecticut budget proposal, which is under consideration, includes a reduction of service to 86% of pre-COVID weekday service levels. Governor Hochul has rightly directed that no service decreases should take place in New York as part of the New York budget, and we will make every effort to ensure that New York customers do not feel the impact of any changes that are included in the Connecticut budget. We've been in close contact with CDOT and their new commissioner with our concerns about the budget proposal. We value our partnership with CDOT and the state of Connecticut, and will continue to do whatever we can to provide all of our customers with a safe and reliable service that they deserve. Moving on from ridership. Last month, we introduced you to some brave Metro North employees who acted together to rescue a 3-year-old autistic boy from live track and live third rail in Tarrytown. Their quick thinking and heroism saved the toddler from near certain tragedy and rightfully caught the attention of both local and national media. Well, our heroes of the diamond also took notice, and prior to the May 1st game against the Cleveland Guardians, the Yankees celebrated the team that saved the boy and helped him rejoin his family with an invitation to watch batting practice and meet both the players and Bomber skipper Aaron Boone. They were also introduced to the crowd and felt the love and gratitude as they were showered by a good type of Bronx cheer. We're all so proud of them, and we want to thank the Yankees organization for creating such a fantastic experience for some really deserving Metro North employees. To celebrate the latest success story in our ongoing effort to enhance and expand parking options for our Upper Harlem customers, I was joined by the Westchester and Putnam County executives and other elected officials on May 9th as we cut the ribbon on a brand-new parking facility a few blocks from our Croton Falls station. To say that this 450-space lot has been long needed is an understatement. In the past, commuters who were shut out of the much smaller village lot would have little choice but to join a long line of cars parked along the shoulder of busy State Route 202. Cars whizzing by and muddy tires made this an unattractive and unsafe option. The newer, safer parking area also has EV chargers for up to 10 cars and room to accommodate an additional 250 cars if need be. To safely guide customers from the lot to the station, new sidewalks and lighting have also been installed along Croton Falls Road. The property was purchased from the former St. Joseph Church School in 2018, and we just know that this investment of the community in safety, convenience, and sustainable transportation will reap big dividends in the years to come. While we're on the topic of the state of Connecticut, having lived a full and very useful life for the past 127 years, the Norwalk River Railroad Bridge is ready for retirement. On May 12th, I joined Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont, Connecticut DOT Commissioner Garrett Ucalito, Senators Murphy and Blumenthal, and other state, local, and federal officials in breaking ground on a brand-new, state-of-the-art vertical lift railroad bridge with built-in redundancies in the form of a pair of two-track decks that move independent of one another. This means that a mechanical issue will not necessarily impact service to the extent that it has in the past. Combined with increased maintainability, higher vertical clearance, and the ability to operate at faster speeds, this gives us greater operational flexibility and better, more reliable service. The current span is commonly referred to as the Walk Bridge, and it is one of the oldest movable bridges along the Northeast Corridor. It was actually built during the administration of President Grover Cleveland. Amtrak and Metro North New Haven, I don't know which term. That's actually an excellent question. As one of our speakers indicated, Amtrak and Metro North New Haven line service along this stretch is way too vital to both the regional and national transportation network for this project to be delayed any longer. I would be remiss if I didn't give a great shout out to all the Metro North departments who have collaborated for years with Connecticut on readiness projects associated with the bridge replacement, most notably construction of the brand-new CP 243 interlocking east of the bridge, which is scheduled to open later this year, and allow for the two-track outages that will be necessary to replace the bridge. We've also made significant improvements to Dockyard, allowing for additional train storage space and quicker, easier equipment turns, as well as a lot of investment on the bridge itself to keep it operating during this time. As Metro North continues to set post-pandemic ridership records this year, it's the 40th anniversary year, we're also rebranding select locomotives with special colors and designs to celebrate the railroad's 4 decades of public service. About a week ago, crews at the North White Plains shop wrapped Locomotive 208 in Metro North's original silver, blue, and red design, the first of 5 locomotives to be vinyl wrapped as part of the railroad's Heritage Series. The first rebranding pays homage to the look sported by Metro North's FL9 locomotives from its 1983 founding until the last one was retired in April of 2007. 4 additional designs are forthcoming, and some will be wrapped in the motifs of Metro North's predecessor railroads like the New York Central, Penn Central, and Conrail. Engine 208 is one of 31 P32 ACDM models the railroad uses to serve the Northern Hudson and Harlem lines and New Haven's Danbury and Waterbury branches. And hopefully you'll be one of the lucky customers to catch the freshly wrapped engines out and about the territory. Before we move on to the Long Island Railroad, we want to brag about one more Metro North employee who earlier this month was named by Progressive Railroading magazine as one of its 25 rising stars of 2023. Metro North's own Deputy Director of Operations Planning and Analysis, Sean Fahey, was recently named to this exclusive list of up-and-coming railroaders under 40, and we couldn't be more delighted for Sean. Sean joined Metro-North full-time in 2009 as a customer service specialist and soon took on increasingly vital roles in our operations scheduling group until ascending to his current position in 2020. Sean is passionate about designing the most effective, efficient, and reliable train schedules imaginable, and his rock star skills have been invaluable as the organization moves towards a more data-driven approach to transportation solutions. The magazine will honor Sean and his fellow recipients at a virtual ceremony in July and in their September print edition. Congratulations and thanks to Sean for making Metro-North so proud. Now let's move on to the Long Island. The old literally met the new on Monday, May 8th, when a new pathway in and out of Grand Central debuted in the terminal's Biltmore room. Introduced that day were 2 brand-new escalators and an elevator leading between the legendary Biltmore room space and Grand Central Madison. More recently home to a newsstand and a flower shop, the Biltmore Room, while still a useful cut-through to 43rd Street, no longer served the same purpose as it originally did when it was a popular arrival area for long-distance travelers on the old New York Central. The new Biltmore connection provides Long Island Railroad customers with direct escalator and elevator access between GCM and Grand Central Terminal's main concourse level for the very first time. It'll save LIRR riders even more time and maximize customer flow through both terminals. The new elevator provides additional flexibility and access for our ADA customers moving through the Grand Central complex. The new options will also divert foot traffic away from a potentially more crowded route of the dining concourse connection. Our customers can now enjoy the historic architecture of the Biltmore Room as part of the daily experience, and the space itself has been returned to its original purpose. The connection heightens safety for customers of both railroads by providing a vital connection between the Joint Incident Command Post and GCM, increasing operational awareness by decreasing response times. Based on a December 2020 PEDFlow analysis, it's estimated that approximately 22% of Grand Central Madison passengers will exit through this Biltmore connection. With Memorial Day weekend on the doorstep and new timetables going into effect today, Long Island Railroad will once again be offering beefed-up service to and from the East End to accommodate the anticipated crush of sun worshipers making their way out to the annual summer hotspot. The Cannonball and additional train to Greenport will again operate out to the East End, and we're also providing an extra eastbound train to Montauk on Thursdays. Coming back west, we have 5 additional service opportunities from the Hamptons and Montauk on Sundays and holidays, including the westbound Cannonball to Penn Station, and there's also an additional Monday morning train from Montauk to Hunters Point Avenue. We're also running some extra weekend trains to Long Beach and Freeport for our Nassau County beach lovers. Adding to all this seasonal fun are summer deals offered by MTA Away to some of Long Island's finest destinations. Among the popular discounted tours offered this season are day trip package deals to Gold Coast Mansions, the Montauk Lighthouse, Fire Island and Greenport Lighthouse Cruises, and North Fork Wineries. The summer tours traditionally kick off with an escorted visit to Calverton National Cemetery for those who wish to honor their loved ones for Memorial Day. That tour takes place on Saturday, May 27th, and first includes a visit to a local florist. Speaking of Long Island's fabulous East End, this past Friday, Rob Free, our Senior VP of Operations, was joined by local leaders as we announced that South Fork Commuter Connection service will operate on summer Fridays for the very first time since its 2019 debut. For those who haven't yet used this service, the South Fork Commuter Connection is a coordinated weekday train and shuttle bus service between Spionk and Montauk. For $3.25 flat fare, customers in the morning can park at stations west of the Shinnecock Canal and take the train farther east to stations including Southampton, Bridgehampton, and East Hampton, where they'll transfer onto free shuttle buses that'll take them to and from nearby employment centers. Before the Long Island redesigned schedules for the opening of GCM and introduced the largest service increase in our history, these Friday trains would have been suspended from Memorial Day through Labor Day. Now they will operate year-round beginning this Friday, getting even more people out of their cars in that busy segment of road and onto convenient, more earth-friendly public transportation. Given finite equipment levels and the fact that we operate on but a single track between Patchogue and Montauk, there are limits to the amount of service we're able to provide east of Spionk. But we've listened to our customers and remain as committed as ever to expanding our East End service as much as we can operationally. This announcement is just the latest manifestation of that goal. Shovels are now in the ground at the first 4 of 9 total stations that are about to receive significant accessibility upgrades as part of our latest ADA station improvements package. Amityville, Copeg, Lindenhurst, and Massapequa Park are the first up, and sometime next year will be the first to achieve beneficial use from the project, which will bring all 9 stations into compliance with the ADA via new and/or replaced elevators, site, sidewalk, and path of travel improvements. Structural and architectural improvements are also part of the single design build contract, as are lighting, signage, and electrical enhancements. Valley Stream, Laurelton, Locust Manor, St. Albans, and Auburndale stations are also slated to receive these upgrades. Substantial overall project completion is scheduled for September of 2025. And now a happy story. On Saturday, May 13th, the Suffolk County Fire Academy further cemented its forever bond with the Long Island Railroad as it dedicated its railroad first responder training simulator to one of our own. Long Island Railroad Transportation Senior Director of Project Planning Tom Kost Jr. and his family joined former colleagues and friends at the Yaphank site to officially rename the safety facility after Tom's late dad, Thomas E. Kost, a former Lindenhurst Volunteer Fire Department chief and a 30-year Long Island Railroad employee. For decades, Long Island Railroad and the Suffolk Fire Academy have partnered to provide vital training to the emergency responder community. This newly dedicated simulator includes sections of track and station platform, as well as a donated pair of train cars for a hands-on training experience. It's a beautiful and lasting tribute to a man of action and honor and a source of pride for the entire Kost and the entire Long Island Railroad family. Each year, the Long Island Railroad Tracks Program, a joint venture between corporate safety and the MTA police, sponsors a safety contest for area school children. The 2022-2023 contest challenged kids to create ideas to be included in the program's activity book, which is distributed at school programs and other safety events. The book features the new track superhero, Safety Sam, the focus of last year's contest. It's a great idea for student engagement and an effective way to get kids thinking about railroad safety. Of course, the end result is a really lovely and purposeful activity book, which you should have at your places. And Lori Ebbinghausen is going to give a little bit more detail about this contest in her safety report. Finally, to conclude, last week was National Police Week, and I want to conclude my comments today with an expression of gratitude for our men and women in blue and the appreciation for the extremely difficult job that they do every day to keep us safe. This past Thursday, the PD held their awards and promotion ceremony in GCT's Vanderbilt Hall. And although you'll hear more about that event during Chief Muller's report, I want to echo the pride the families of the honorees felt during this ceremony. We owe our police a huge debt of gratitude, and I personally am incredibly grateful for their continued partnership on all matters involving the safety of our employees and our customers. On behalf of your MTA family, congratulations and thank you to all the award recipients and those freshly promoted. And this concludes my report, so I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions? Yes, Commissioner Zuckerman.
I have one. One of the hallmarks of our relationship with Connecticut for as long as I know is that we've generally run as a single system.
Yeah.
You know, the rider doesn't know the difference. Besides, I guess some of our cars have a red stripe on them, but they see it as a singular service, and I'm sure there's lots of interstate travel from New Rochelle up to Stamford and the like. So I guess I'm wondering, given what you alluded to, and you were quite generous and gentle in your remarks, but I'm wondering if Connecticut is expecting to reduce their service down to COVID levels. In our state, rightfully and correctly, the governor's goal is to maintain our service. How would that differential work, and what would it look like for peak service going into Connecticut?
So as you say, I mean, we've always operated this as a very integrated service, and you know, Connecticut customers are our customers. I mean, we don't really think of them as any different, right? You know, you have, you know, rightly acknowledged that our governor, Governor Hochul, has directed as part of the New York budget process for service to be held harmless. So whatever we do with respect to the reductions that are being sought by the state of Connecticut, you know, our objective would be to hold our New York, New Haven line customers harmless. I mean, that's what I've directed my staff to do. So we are in the process, working very closely with the state of Connecticut to develop a tailored schedule to be able to meet the reduction levels that are included in the Connecticut budget proposal from the Connecticut governor. We are in the process of developing that schedule, so it is not yet done. It is a tailored schedule based upon the direction that we are getting from the state of Connecticut in that regard. The one thing that I would say is that when and we ran a schedule, during COVID with those, at those service levels, right, which is roughly, in the mid-80s as a percentage of our pre-COVID service, that hits the peaks harder because that's where the trains are. So that schedule that was run during COVID had a roughly, we were running roughly 66% of our pre-COVID levels during the AM peak and roughly 55% of our pre-COVID levels during the PM peak. So that's, that's quite different from what we're running today, which is in the morning, in the mid-90s of our pre-COVID service levels and, close to 90% in the PM. So it's a big change.
Any questions? Yes, Commissioner
How
Glucksman.
soon, if this happens, how soon would that take place?
So my understanding, I mean, again, this is a Connecticut process, but my understanding, they're on a July 1st fiscal year, I believe. But the expectation would be that any reductions in service that are necessitated by these budget cuts would be going into effect later on in the fall. They're on a bit of a different cycle than we are. My understanding is they're in the process of nailing down their budget now.
Any other questions? If not, let's move on to our safety reports. Excuse me, operations reports. Yes, Metro North, thank you.
Thank you.
Justin.
Good morning. The operations report begins on page 14. System-wide OTP for the month of April was 96.3%, above goal 94%. Year-to-date OTP remains above goal at 97.5%. There were 4 major incidents impacting on-time performance for April. 2 of those we discussed last month, which was the CSX derailment in CP 106. What's that? CP 106. Right, the CSX derailment, yep. Moving on, regarding the fleet in March, the MDBF was over 389,000 miles, surpassing the monthly goal of 175. Essentially, that concludes the report, unless there's any comments.
If not, we can go to Roberts, Long Island Railroad. Thank you.
Good morning. Total on-time performance for the month of April was 93.4%, below goal of 94%, excuse me. And year-to-date as of April was 94.9% above goal. 5 of our branches operated at or above goal for the month of April, and 8 of our branches for year-to-date as of April. Major events which result in 10 or more late trains, there were 18 incidents for the month of April, the most significant of which was a loss of signal power in Jamaica on April 28th during the PM Commission hour. This incident negatively impacted on-time performance by 0.3%. For our fleet performance, as of March, the MDBF was 188,085 miles, and year-to-date as of March was 172,985 miles, both above goal of 170,000 miles. For service delivery, we completed 99.7% of our trips. And upcoming events, we have the Belmont Stakes Saturday, June 10th, and we urge customers to please look at the Train Time app and the website, as there are some schedule adjustments, particularly on the Hempstead branch and for Elmont Station. Upcoming work which impacts service on the Oyster Bay branch on Sunday, June 11th and Saturday, June 17th. There's crossing renewal work which will adjust some schedules there. And finally, again, as Kathy had mentioned, this coming weekend with Memorial Day marks the beginning of our summer service. That concludes my report, and I'll take any questions you may have.
Seeing no questions, moving on to safety report with Shelley Prettyman's Metro North. Thank you.
So good morning. Metro North Safety Report can be found on page 18 of the committee book. So to first summarize where Metro North stands with customer and employee injury rates, this compares the rates for the current 12-month reporting period ending March 2023 to the rates for the prior 12 months ending March 2022. So the reportable customer injury rate decreased from 2.07 to 2.04 per 1 million customers. And for the recent trend, the 12-month rolling rate has been dropping each month over the past 5 months for Metro North. The reportable employee lost time injury rate increased from 2.08 to 2.22 per 200,000 working hours. For the recent trend, the 12-month rolling rate held steady this month after a slight uptick the prior month. So So one recent safety initiative I'd like to highlight for you is the Harmon Yard Spring Cleanup, which was held on May 10th. These cleanups enhance safety for employees by removing slip, trip, and fall hazards. So for this event, 18 employees from multiple departments came together to remove over 100 bags of various debris. And I'd also like to note that some accomplishments of the Office of System Safety's Environmental Compliance Services team for the year to date are summarized in the committee book. This team conducts field inspections at yards, shops, substations, and other facilities to assess compliance with hazardous waste, stormwater, petroleum bulk storage, and spill response requirements. And 97 inspections have been completed for the year to date. And this team also coordinates waste reduction efforts, maintenance of stormwater systems, and other initiatives, and a few of those are summarized in the book. That concludes my report, unless there are any questions for me.
Any questions? Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Gloria Beghazens, Long Island Rail Safety.
Good morning. So our report, also reporting for the period through March, is on page 28 of the book, and our customer injury rate is slightly decreased again to 2.11 per million customers. Our employee injury rate remains essentially flat at 4.25 per 200,000 hours worked. I would like to spend some time this morning talking a little bit about our safety contest and the wonderful efforts of the communities that we serve. TRAX is a joint venture with the MTA Police Department. We've been doing it since 1985, going out into the different schools, camps, daycares, community groups. In 2016, to further engage with the young people in these communities, we initiated our first school safety contest. And that's varied over the year to safety slogans, to last year the creation of our safety superhero a la Metro North. This year, we had our students create an activity book for us. And I really want to express my deepest appreciation to all of the young people and the schools that entered, to all of our community partners, and especially our winners. So at the elementary school level, from the Syosset School District Village Elementary School, with a picture to color was Uma Pal Hafiz. Her teacher is Ms. Kane. From the Patchogue Medford School District, Oregon Middle School, with a word search was Aliciana Montanes from the 7th grade, and her teacher, Mrs. Poulos. And at the high school level, also from Syosset, a word scramble from Zoe Chu, a 9th grader, in Mrs. Mihaloto's class. I also want to acknowledge the Long Island Railroad team that supports the program. So that's Linda Katz and Chrisanne Fabio, who really spearheaded the contest, and worked very closely with the creative team from MTA headquarters, led by Barbara Basse, Ricky Setihadi, Moti Asif, and Sophie Ong, who translated the entries into the vision that you see now in our safety book. So it'll be given out at all of our classes and special events, and really helps to serve to further engage with students. We're very excited about this new tool in our toolbox. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lori, and congratulations to all the students mentioned. We now have Chief Mueller, who will provide the MTA police report.
Thank you. We had in the MTA system, Long Island Railroad and Metro North, we had 27 major crime felonies. Of the 27, larcenies continue to plague us, totaling 11 out of the 27, or 41%. Of those, 7 of those were perpetrated on the train, and 4 of which were on in stations. So we continue to try to get the message out with respect to, protecting your property and making sure that we're managing unattended property. As President Rinaldi mentioned, we had a medal day last week along with a promotion ceremony. We really appreciate everyone at the table here for supporting the MTA PD. Obviously, we know this doesn't happen without the board and our chairman, Jana Lieber, to make this happen. And it just, if you look, it's on video on the MTA website, just some really incredible work done by the men and women of the MTA PD. I couldn't be more proud. So, and that is the MTA PD report.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions? Yes, Commissioner Mack.
Thank you. What a wonderful job. Please keep in mind, unfortunately, I couldn't make that promotion ceremony, which I really wanted to, but I had other calls in my police department that I had to be there. But keep in mind, in Nassau, we have a class that is graduating, and we will be putting in another class. So we must have more men and women to support safety in our system. We cannot rely on New York City, the state police. They are all understaffed at this moment, except for Nassau County. But I must compliment you, Chief, on your cooperation with Nassau and Suffolk PDs. Very important to keep that relationship. Keep up the good job, and let's recruit more men and women.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Commissioner Brinkman?
Yes, Commissioner Mack had mentioned about your coordination with Nassau and Suffolk PDs, and I don't think you mentioned it in your report, but there was an arrest made this past week on the murder that occurred on the Ronkonkoma train back, I guess it was in February of last year. So I just want to commend your guys for working with Suffolk PD to get that done. It took a long time to bring this guy to justice, but you did it, and I want to congratulate you for that.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Our men and women are very adept at the investigation, the different investigative steps, as well as, which is what our job is all about, is working hand in glove with all the other local municipalities. So they did a fantastic job all around. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy, can you take us through the information items for both rails?
Sure. There is one joint information item, the Long Island Railroad Metro North PTC implementation update. Paul Dietland and Mike Loney are here in case there's any questions about that update. Okay, hearing none. There are three Metro North information items: the final review of the 2022 operating budget results, the track program quarterly update, and an information item that will be presented as an action item to finance the permanent easement to New York State Parks and New York City Department of Environmental Protection for the Breakneck Connector Trail and New Bridge. All of these items are in your book, and we're here to answer any questions that you might have. Okay, since there's no questions, there are also three Long Island Railroad information items. Again, the final review of the 2022 operating budget results, the summer service and track work program, and the maintenance of way quarterly update. And again, we're here to answer any questions that the committee might have. Okay, that concludes the information items.
Thank you. And now moving on to the agency finance reports.
Both of the finance reports are in the book in case there's any questions.
No questions. Moving on to procurement. Omar, can you report on the procurements, please?
Good morning, and everyone. Metro North, on behalf of itself and Staten Island Rapid Transit Operating Authority, is seeking MTA board approval to award a non-competitive negotiated miscellaneous service contract in the not-to-exceed amount of $5,511,300 to the firm Laser Tribology, BV, for the lease of laser modules. The 2-year lease with a 1-year option will enable the agencies to use cutting-edge laser technology to conduct railhead-based cleaning for the removal of leaf debris and contaminants from the top of the rail surfaces. Each year, the agencies experience hundreds of slip-slide events caused by leaves falling on the tracks and depositing harmful residue on the rails, which adversely affects the train's ability to stop and can lead to wheel damage, the removal of trains from passenger service, or derailments. The lasering process is expected to improve the agency's performance by more effectively removing the source of the slip-slide problem, which will have direct positive impact on safety, reliability, and service delivery. The service contract will be funded by each agency's operating budget. Are there any questions?
No questions.
May I have a move for its approval?
May I have a motion? Yes. And a second? Okay. Motion by Mr. Glucksman, second by Mr. Brinkman. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Motion approved. Thank you very much. Seeing that there are no other questions. Oh, yes, Mr. Glucksman.
At our Metro North Railroad Commuter Council last week, we talked about the lack of paper timetables, and New Jersey Transit issues them for our Pascack Valley line and for Port Jervis, and request was made that we just produced limited quantities, but not everybody has a smartphone, just maybe a limited number of them so that people have them at hand. I made my request. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Brinkman?
I would like to follow up with that. I think we should have the same thing on the Long Island Railroad. Again, very limited number, but should be available in the major stations such as Penn Station, any of our terminus stations, or maybe major stations like Hicksville, Ronkonkoma, et cetera. But again, a very limited number, not like and just branch size, not the individual stations.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? If not, may I take a motion to adjourn our meeting in a second? Motion? Second, thank you. Meeting adjourned.